Thailand Cambodia conflict, historical fault lines, today's eruption, and the diplomatic game of the US and China. The border between Thailand and Cambodia has never been a simple straight line on a map. Since the colonial treaties of the early 20th century, agreements between France and Siam left behind ambiguous cartography. Preah Vihear, a Khmer temple perched dramatically on the Dangrek escarpment, embodies that ambiguity. In 1962, the International Court of Justice ruled that the temple belonged to Cambodia, but it did not define the surrounding territory. That decision was like a stitch left unfinished, one that each generation of politicians in Bangkok and Phnom Penh could pull apart whenever they needed a nationalist rallying cry. In 2008, when UNESCO inscribed Preah Vihear as a World Heritage Site, that cry became deafening. Artillery exchanges from 2008 to 2011 left casualties and hardened memories. In 2013, the ICJ clarified parts of its earlier ruling, yet still failed to erase every gray zone. Since then, the frontier has remained a tinderbox, awaiting a spark. In 2025, a spark indeed appeared. At the end of May, what seemed a minor incident, Cambodian tourists singing their national anthem at the Ta Muen Tam Temple, triggered a skirmish that killed one Cambodian soldier. That small clash ignited a chain reaction. By late July, the situation had spiraled. Thailand deployed F-16s for airstrikes. Cambodia retaliated with heavy rocket fire. Within days, hundreds of thousands of civilians along the border were displaced and dozens lost their lives. What drove this escalation was not only geography. Domestic politics magnified the crisis. A leaked phone call between Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and Cambodia's former leader Hun Sen became a weapon in Bangkok's political arena. Rather than a discreet dialogue, it was painted as evidence of betrayal. In Phnom Penh, meanwhile, the leak was used to consolidate nationalist sentiment. On social media, disinformation and hardline voices poured gasoline onto the fire, turning tactical incidents into strategic crises. Against this backdrop, international diplomacy became the emergency brake. The United States chose to wield economic leverage. President Donald Trump warned that trade agreements would be suspended if violence did not subside. That message, reinforced by U.S. officials attending talks hosted by Malaysia, pressured Bangkok into accepting a ceasefire. For Washington, it was both an attempt to contain a new flashpoint in Southeast Asia and a chance to showcase its role as a stabilizer. China, on the other hand, positioned itself as mediator. Beijing quickly invited both parties to Shanghai, where the ceasefire was reaffirmed. Unlike Washington, China emphasized its image as a fair broker, aligning with its broader strategy of embedding itself as a security actor in Southeast Asia. With ASEAN, Malaysia, the US, and China all present at the negotiating table, the border war became a testing ground for regional geopolitics. The fighting has already brought trade to a near standstill. Border crossings closed, and retaliatory bans, including on fruit imports and film screenings, spread into the cultural domain. But the deepest cost is human. Images of hurried evacuations, abandoned schools, and makeshift hospitals near the front lines tell the real story. Civilians bearing the brunt of unfinished disputes. What lies ahead? The most likely scenario is controlled de-escalation, a fragile ceasefire, limited joint patrols, and revived border committees. Yet sporadic clashes could still erupt whenever Bangkok or Phnom Penh needs a nationalist banner to shore up domestic power. A full-scale relapse into war is less probable, but cannot be dismissed, especially if civilian casualties mount. In that case, the speed and effectiveness of US, Chinese, and ASEAN diplomacy will determine whether the break still works. Viewed from a wider lens, the 2025 border conflict is more than a Thailand-Cambodia dispute. It exposes the scars of colonial cartography, the fragility of Southeast Asian frontiers, and the overlapping reach of great powers. With the US leveraging trade as pressure and China stepping forward as mediator, the clash has become part of a larger diplomatic chessboard. And on that board, the people of Thailand and Cambodia, losing homes, livelihoods, and lives, are a sobering reminder that peace in the region is never something to be taken for granted.